You forced me to go to mandated reporters alone. They're allowed to just ignore it because I had to join alone. Who's going to believe me? Who's going to help me turn it in? I posted it up on YouTube, for God's sake. I post actual evidence on YouTube, the actual situations, and yet you guys watch for entertainment. Now, oh shit, I forgot my wallet again. Nobody cares that I tried to get help stopping the abuse before Natalie was killed. Nobody cares that I spoke up about the abuse over and over again before Natalie was killed. Nobody cares about all of the overwhelming evidence that I tried to get help, and that people would only talk about either doing horrible things or ignoring it. I didn't want people to get hurt. I didn't want people to get killed. I want them to leave me alone so I could see my friends and family. You look at the situations that I was in going on at the time, and you go ahead and pretend like I'm a bad person. I'm scatterbrained because I'm scared as hell. All these people say, oh, you're confused. No, I'm not confused. I know what's going on. You don't. I lived through it. You didn't, which means you need to shut the fuck up, not me. If you care, then you need to shut up instead of telling me what to do with your ignorance. It's not that I didn't try, it's that you didn't care. You want to pretend that because you weren't there. No, you're supposed to go in for my safety so they know somebody cares, so they're less likely to break the law. All mandated reporters in the United States are crooked. You're not going to find one that isn't. You're not going to find a police officer that isn't. Whether or not they do their jobs as mandated reporters is dependent upon whether or not they're alone. A lot of people said, hey man, they won't listen to me, I'm a hobo. And you know what? People come up with such cockamamie bullshit. Like, of course, I have to try to rely on having to trust the words of people like, what is her name? Megan Missigatis. I just have to trust her words, right? But then she's going to tell me stuff like people won't listen to her because she's fat and old. And then, of course, when I need her to come forward and be honest about stuff, she tells me that she's got chemo brain. So she can't remember for shit. So I say that because that is something that affects my situation. I have to rely on somebody who's got memory problems. And then I have to rely on her memory. Meanwhile, she is a mandated reporter. All these people in Nebraska who want to claim they're not mandated reporters, they are. Just because you won't listen to the victim and you won't look at evidence doesn't mean that you're in the right. The fact that you would allow people to do that to someone who you claim to be your friend, and you would do everything that you possibly could to try to hide the fact that I went to you for help, to treat me like shit. Yeah, when do you start remembering the messages that I sent to you? That's right. You start remembering about the time you're pissed off at me because I repeated what the police said. All those things that you claimed that you did, The police said that you didn't. Who's telling the truth? My friends or the police? I have both sides recorded. I've got what the police wrote in my police stuff, and then I've got the messages between myself and my friends and my family. I've got the conversations with my loved ones that show that they did in fact say the things that they said. And then I've got the paperwork and documents written by investigators and officers stating that I'm a liar and none of these people exist, and that, well, a great many things that were untrue. Also, when somebody can't take care of themselves and they're forced into this filth, they use it as an excuse to harm the victim. When I had housing, I didn't have to live like this. But I was also in Chapel, Nebraska, where nobody cares, where people have historically been shitty to me. Boulder, Colorado people were great. Boulder, Colorado, I was allowed to be me. Boulder, Colorado, I didn't have people accusing me of a bunch of shit I didn't do. Stuff that actually happened, but not stuff I did. Chapel, Nebraska, there's a woman named Susan Riley, and for like 12 years, something like that, my little brother Michael stole a carton of cigarettes out of her vehicle, and she'd get all drunk and stupid and oxygen deprived and swear up and down it was me. No, it was Michael. Michael got in trouble for it. Michael was in the newspaper for it. Michael did it too. Just because you put it in the newspaper doesn't make him guilty, but that's how they do that in Chapel, Nebraska. You try to turn in the local sheriff, he arrests you on bogus charges or lets people hurt you over and over and over again until you have a mental breakdown, and then arrests you for having a mental breakdown from abuse. Then, instead of doing their job to look at evidence, preserve the evidence of abuse against the victim, what do? They pawned me off on someone else for 6 years. I needed help. I went to all the agents I was supposed to. Making me go to them alone is fucking evil. I explained that I have communication issues, and instead of that lady understanding that is a part of fucking autism, stupid. I may sound like I am talking perfectly clearly, but I'm going to get a lot of shit wrong. That's why the evidence needs to be used instead of my words. The evidence has the time and date stamps. The evidence answers all of the questions. Nobody would help me to turn the evidence into the police and Adult Protective Services. The impossibility of, here's the thing, the cops told me to do things that were not right. And I explained to them the way that it actually is. And they just talked over me as if their bullshit was somehow magically the truth. Jared Hahn did that when I was trying to explain to Tara Smith. Jared Hahn wanted to say all I had to do was go talk to Molly. That's Molly Smith. No, they're not related. Tara Smith is from a different town. Molly Smith had a lot of evidence. She's also involved in multiple situations where I had to go to Jared Hahn after knowing that he's my predator. She had me go to Jared Hahn. She said that he's the one that she always goes to. She also said that she was appalled with the way that he treated me. Appalled. She also had evidence, important evidence. I hope she still has it. It's important evidence. Kayla Trujillo has a USB stick full of important evidence. You guys pretend that I was stalking Natalie. I wasn't. I was being stalked. Nearly all of this stuff for mandated reporters says the same thing. First, I have to go to my predators and ask them to stop. I'm supposed to tell them how it makes me feel and ask them to stop. The problem is that gives them the opportunity to retaliate. And that makes it a lot tougher. You're supposed to go to your friends and family. Safety in numbers and all that, but they don't care. Melton, I'm going to put my hand over you because you're a distraction and I can barely hold it together well enough to explain what's going on. Any distraction is a horrible distraction. No, I'm not going to stop telling my story every time that somebody wants to ask questions. Don't ask, just listen to understand. You can go back through my videos and look at the evidence. All right, you can go stroll back to the very beginning of the video and just listen. You don't have to comment and interrupt. I am barely able to hold this together. I got OCD, so because you typed, I have to respond. But the other thing is, the only reason that I leave that up there is because someone might offer to help how I need. Mortimer Stilton typed, Sean, may I get a short recap? There's no such thing as a short recap when there's 6 years worth of abuse. It would take a full day just to explain what was in the videos and the crimes that were committed here the day before, 2 days ago, 3 days ago now. I mean, fuck, every day is fucking hell for me. Every day is the same. I try to get help, but I have no resources. And I'm told to spend money and time on jumping through resources where they've already committed felonies. Please, please stop. See, that's the thing, Mortimer Stilton, is that I am frustrated with people wanting me to start over and give them the story from the very beginning. Every time somebody asks, because they hopped in the middle of something, and that is harmful because I can't function. That's why it's so horrible to be forced to do this in public. That's where the mandated reporter training and what we're told that we're supposed to do when we're victimized. We are taught this from when we're kids. We're supposed to go to our predator and ask them to stop. Tell them how it makes us feel. Instead of them doing that, they retaliate against us and make fun of us and run around and slander our names. Bullies don't work like that, stupid. Then we got to go to our friends and our families, and depending on what gender we are and how tall we are and how good looking we are and how much money we have, they'll either care or they won't. And if they don't, you're stuck alone. And the number one thing you can do to defend yourself is have a family member or a friend that you can call when something happens. When you are an at-risk adult, you are targeted often. And when you recognize that you're being targeted and you let somebody know and they blow you off, you're treated like you made it up. If you don't have the ability to take the screenshots or record the conversations, you get treated like you made it up. If you record the conversations so that you can prove it, you get talked over, they don't look at it and they pretend you made it up. The lawyers told me to record everything, so I do, to the best of my ability now. I didn't always used to be able to record it, but we've gone through the second one. I already went to my friends and family. The things that they're supposed to do as friends and family if they care. What would you do? I'll give you an example. Mortimer Stelton, if your daughter came to you, if she called you up on the phone and said, hey, I was just raped, will you go to the police with me? What would you do? If your son called you and said, hey, I'm being harmed by a bunch of druggies because I rescued one and she didn't get what she wanted, what would you do? That's number 2, right out the window. Going to family or friends don't work. Number 3, number 3, I tried. Number 3, going to the police after the first 2 didn't work. In November of 2016, this is less than a month after I left Virginia, and I blocked Natalie and Alicia. I had to unblock them to tell them what was going on, that I was being abused, and why. I let them know I was being treated like a pedophile. Instead of putting a stop to it, I ended up getting a bunch of phone calls from Tim Beeson. He's the one who said he was her boyfriend at the time. Ended up getting a bunch of phone calls from him at all hours of fucking day and night. Threatening to kill me, threatening to kill Jerry. Here's the thing, is that I was posting up about abuse that I was taking from Maddie Bowe's friends to begin with. And when I asked Natalie to put a stop to it, because that's what the police told me to do. Hey, Sean, it's best to settle this out of court. Can't you just talk to her and explain that you're being messed with and ask her to stop? I already tried that. You know what happened when I asked her to stop? All the people that she was telling me that she had to get away from, her predators, the ones that she came to me for help with, was confiding in me about, were getting a hold of me, people like Tim Beeson. Tim Beeson, I wasn't able to prove what he was doing because I didn't have the ability to record it. I didn't have the ability to get someone to listen and understand my text, and also the assumptions and stigmatism surrounding mental illness and autism being used by law enforcement to blow us off and not listen to us. See, while by law, if they find out that you have a mental illness, they're supposed to investigate the crime. Instead, they use mental illness as an excuse to deny you any of your fucking rights as a human being. To lie to you about what the law actually states. That is intentionally taking advantage of an at-risk victim of so much abuse. And since I record these people on my channel, something that they never expect from homeless people. I've got evidence that neglect by the people that we're sent to, they're supposed to be mandated reporters, because they make a profit off of us coming back every week or every month at your expense. See, well, I need them to be a mandated reporter, which is required by law. Mandated reporters don't need your Medicare or Medicaid. If you're disabled and you're harmed, it's not okay for them to go back and look through to try to find excuses to ignore you. See, all it takes is one police officer, one Waylon Lolotai, trying to harm you and get off on it because you're a criminal. And god damn, they get off on hurting criminals, don't they? But I'm not the criminal, I'm the victim. See, number 3, going to a trusted adult. This is a professional adult, a teacher, a preacher, a police officer, or a doctor, a school nurse, all mandated reporters. What are the chances that Terry Jepson, a mandated reporter in the state of Nebraska and a nurse, that the student in her school that committed suicide came to her for help, and instead of doing her job as a mandated reporter, she blew him off? Now, mandated reporters want to play it off lazy, like if you go in with a friend or family and you explain to them what's going on with a friend or family, then they have to do something about the people who are trying to bully you into killing yourself. But if you go in alone and you explain to them, hey, these people are trying to bully me into killing myself, please help, they'll lock you up on suicide watch because it's free fucking money. It also discredits you as a victim. But who cares? Who cares that for the rest of your life, anybody who wants to hurt you can get away with it because you wanted to make a little extra profit instead of following the law as a mandated reporter? Mortimer Stilton typed, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I only want you to vent and tell your story. I'm listening. We're going to go to number 4 on the list. See, this one's one that didn't come out until recently. Number 4 on the list. When all else has failed, you go to the media. But the media had already painted me as some sort of an evil hobo. And you know how the media hates hobos. How dare we allow these hobos to exist because they poop and they pee and they sleep? How dare they exist? We put stuff all over the trash cans all over the place and locks on the trash cans so they can't use the trash, and then we arrest them for littering, even if it's not their litter. I've got hundreds of victims and the crimes against them recorded on my channel, other victims of my predators by name. Number 4, go into the media and go into social media. I had to go to the media and social media all the way back in November of 2016. When I had to go to social media about the issue, I'd already gone to cops in Virginia. I'd already gone to cops in Boulder. I'd already gone to friends and family in Boulder. I'd already gone to friends and family in Virginia. The only ones I had, Natalie and Alicia. I'd already reached out to friends and family members for help. I reached out to Brenda Dickinson and Alex Furman and Brandon Ratner. I reached out to Candace Bondurant and Bo Prince. I reached out to help from Maddie Boa. Maddie Boa was so evil to me over it. My other friends, they dismissed me outright. Blew me off. It's no major deal. It's no big thing. It was a big thing. I couldn't take care of myself, and they kept on harming me. And Dennis Dickinson, bless his heart, was a fucking horrible, rotten, goddamn piece of shit to me because I couldn't take care of myself. He's one of them dicks, just wants to do the get a job, get a job, get a job, pay me free money for doing nothing. I earned the meal I ate at his house. His wife asked for help, and we made a deal. And I fulfilled my end of the deal, and Dennis Dickinson cheated me out of it. I was in a constant state of panic because I had no money, and Natalie was going to kill herself because I had no money, and I was trying the best I could because I was too disabled. And she kept on putting it on me. Sean, my family's driving me nuts. Her family in Virginia made her want to kill herself. Natalie Bollinger, having to grow up with a family like that, I grew up with a family like that. I agree 100% with her decision to have her life ended. What would have happened if Natalie Bollinger and I had ended our lives within a week of each other? Would they have caught Lopez? Would they still have even tried? When you bully somebody who can't defend themselves until they kill themselves, you're a horrible person. Natalie Bollinger could defend herself, but she didn't. She chose to harm and manipulate and lie and get other people to do her fucking dirty work for her. And then to play victim and still get other people to do her dirty work for her. She was able to get police agencies that refused to listen to me to help her out because they had been able to gaslight me into literally screaming and cursing to try to get help. But you get to see in all of those messages, while you want to focus on the fact that I curse, the fact is in all of those messages I asked for help, and you can see it. How I tried to work together with the police, and when that didn't work, I encouraged Natalie when she was trying to threaten to have me harmed by police. I encouraged her to call the police. She had my number. I told her to give them my number and have them call me, and they never did. The only people who called me were predators or therapists who wanted to set up another appointment and make sure I brought my Medicare card. When, as a homeless person, you're sent to the police to turn in a crime, and instead of them doing their jobs, they send you to a therapist, and the therapist is supposed to do that job, but instead that therapist sets you up for therapy instead of doing their job as a mandated reporter to turn it in immediately, to make sure that your disabilities are not ignored or taken advantage of as they have for 6 years, 7 years now. See, I jumped through all these hoops with the disability because it was supposed to make it so that a mandated reporter would help me to turn in the crimes being committed by Natalie and her friends and family. Maddie Boa and her meth customers. But it never happened. Instead, it was used to prevent me from getting help, to deny me the right to show evidence because none of these places would look. All right, I'm going to read this. Mortimer Stilton typed, to answer your question, I would absolutely go to the police, but, and no but. No but. That's the thing. We'll read the whole thing. It says, to answer your question, I would absolutely go to the police, but it would take a lot of my inner restraint to not harm the individual who harmed my loved one. It's an honest answer to my question, isn't it? That is an honest answer to my question. Not only is it an honest answer to my question, It's the one I get from almost everyone when I ask them. And then I show them. I say, hey, here's my friends. Here's my mother and my father. When I was raped as a child, where were my mother and father? They were in jail and rehab. I wasn't being raped by my mother and father. I was being raped by staff members in the system, by the other kids that I was locked up with, by the other foster kids or the other kids in the group home. And you can't tell on them. They'll treat you like you're crazy. You just have to let them fuck you up the asshole. One of the foster homes I was in, we had 2 bunk beds in our room. All 4 of us were foster kids. And I remember waking up one morning, the foster parents' oldest son was in there fucking the face of one of my roommates. And my movement when I woke up, he shoved it in too hard and the kid puked, and the foster parent came in and beat that kid for puking on the floor. I tried saying what was happening. The kid who stayed on the top bunk, they didn't put me on the top bunk because I peed the bed. The kid that was on the top bunk, he didn't really talk much, but he sure as hell wasn't going to talk after that. There's a lot of people who think it's funny to put on porn in the middle of a party, and you see that girl going through that, and it's mean. You know, for me, I'm disgusted by sex. Mortimer Stelton typed, I can give you my personal number. I'm more than willing to listen to you to help you through your emotions, which are absolutely valid. I'm well versed in psychology and I've studied for 8 years so far. Mortimer Stelton, are you a mandated reporter? Mortimer Stelton. My email address is doggedroman@gmail.com. I can forward you the messages. If you're a psychologist, you'll be real interested in what Natalie did. You'll also be real interested in people like Dr. Ted Hill, his opinions, and former Washington State social worker turned Nebraska prison nurse, Joseph Hall. Also, Nate Schwab. Mortimer Stilton typed, I also want to note that I am not a therapist by trade. I work as a carpenter. So did I. Went to Pine Ridge Job Corps Center to learn carpentry. I love making things. Now I have to make small things. One of the things about autism is your entire world is antagonistic to us. It's too much. We need peace and quiet. If we don't have peace and quiet, we literally cannot function. If you are talking and somebody else is talking over you, if you're both talking at once, I can't hear you. If you're talking, I can't think. Do you know why? Because I'm busy visualizing what it is that you're telling me. I think visually. Mortimer Stilton typed, I also want to note that I am not a therapist by trade. I work as a carpenter. Anyone in need of emotional support is welcome to call me. I will have a 2-hour conversation if that makes you feel better. Text/call, just to be clear. Texting is the wrong way to communicate. It's a horrible way to communicate. Also, I don't need emotional support. I need someone to act as a mandated reporter and follow the laws, rules, and regulations of a mandated reporter. When somebody is mentally ill, it is too easy to manipulate their words. I have a communication disability, and everywhere that I go, they capitalize on that. And my communication disability gets greater the more I am talked over, the more I am spoken over, the more I am sent from one place to another, the more resources that I am cheated out of and lied out of, the more time goes by, allows my predators to get away. And because I know these things, I know to be afraid of them. And when I explain to them, see how my words don't come together, I stutter. I practiced real hard not to stutter. They used to pretend I was a human being and that I was smart and caring and loving. But that's because I was. I mean, I busted my back for years for people who never paid. They promised but never did. I learned to be a portrait artist, and I worked a lot of years to get people artwork that they never paid for. They pay their plumber before they pay their artist. Anyway, I gotta try to find my wallet. Go in and get something to eat. Mortimer Stilton typed, I spent 4 months in a mental facility for a suicide attempt where I shot myself in the head. That was the seed of my studies, as I sustained no cognitive defects and want to make the most of it. Well, I need mandated reporters to do their jobs. If calling you for 2 hours, and that will eat up my battery. It's difficult for me to charge my electronics. It's difficult because I have to use an old car that the engine has over 600,000 miles on it. It may blow any day. If that's gone, I lose everything. I lose all of my evidence, including the evidence against all of these mandated reporters, and they will capitalize on that. I have to be afraid that they'll come arrest me on some bogus charge or something that I was forced to do to bring attention to the abuse. But also, as somebody who is learning about psychology, you do realize that what you're typing is all of the wrong things. You're making it about you and your backstory instead of about the victim. You know, if you become a psychologist or a psychiatrist, you are a mandated reporter legally, even if it's on the internet against an at-risk adult. Forcing a disabled person, a mentally ill person, to go to social media because the police wouldn't do their jobs. There were no friends or family member who cared. And going to the predators and asking them to stop only resulted in them intensifying the fucking assaults and playing victim. And then when I had a complete and total mental breakdown, that's always when they go, oh, see, he's a mentally ill and dangerous person. He's dangerous. If they back you into a corner, how dangerous are you going to be? Even a rabbit will bite you if cornered. Mortimer Stilton typed, I absolutely understand. I am not a reporter, but I am more than willing to help in any way that I'm able. All right, well, here's the help that I need. I don't have a place to process 6 years with literally My channel has 5,600 videos on it. My channel was made to show the situation with Natalie Bollinger, and to protect myself and the other victims, and to show our stories, to show the efforts that we've made and how the laws are not being followed, how these people are wiping their buddies' backsides. You wash my back, I'll wash yours. Hospital washes the cops' back, the cops wash the hospital's back. Somebody assumes or tries to impress a girl, and magically now we've got a whole fucking scenario where somebody who is disabled and easy to victimize is taking a lot of abuse by those fucking predators because that girl went back to that predator. Well, I'm disabled and I can't defend myself against her or that predator. And when I speak up, well, they intensify. But at least I spoke up, which is what I'm supposed to do. I'm supposed to go to a friend or family member when I'm abused. I'm supposed to go to the police when I'm abused. But because you guys don't try to understand what it's like when a person is in a state of crisis. There it is. Like with Mr. Mortimer talking about his suicide attempt, I understand you sharing that to let me know that you have a likewise experience, but all that ever does is to sidetrack and change the subject from what really is important. Turning in the crimes committed against me. You getting shot in the head doesn't help me turn in those crimes. I do thank you for sharing it, because it's personal business, but it's... A lot of people tell me their personal business, and then I have all of their personal business stuck in my head that I have to try to remember about each and every one of these people, and I have to remember all of the details and what was said by these people, what was said by those people, where to find the evidence of it, who I talked to, what time. It's a good thing I got 5,600 videos. There's at least, I'd say there's probably close to 1,000 videos with witnesses in them by now, to various crimes committed coast to coast. Mortimer Stilton typed, absolutely understand. I am not a reporter, but more than willing to help in any way that I'm able. By able, here's what I need. I need someone to help me to turn in the crimes immediately, to make the call immediately. And I need him to explain that every mandated reporter agency in the state, in the city of Tillamook has already been contacted. They have been recorded not doing their jobs as mandated reporters. You probably, as a part of your psychology course, have mandated reporter training. Mortimer Stilton type, this isn't a pity party for me, I promise. It's a point of relation, like you said. I just want you to know that I understand to a small extent, but I wish to hear your story. Alright. I grew up in the system and then I was dropped off on the streets at 18. My dad wouldn't help me because when I was 15, he wanted me to make porno websites. And he also assaulted me several times for an FNPE that I only got because he wouldn't buy a school uniform. When I became homeless, I did have friends. I went from growing up with minorities and, a lot of people that were friends with me growing up because I was in the system. It's all the mentally ill kids, all the gay kids mostly. They're in there because they were trying to commit suicide because mommy and daddy didn't love them. And told them, oh no, you can't be gay. I was in there with a lot of deaf kids that wouldn't wear their hearing aids, so they were pissed off because they didn't understand what people were saying. That's a weird one. Like, it's not they're hateful people, it's that when you don't have your hearing aid in, you can't understand what they're saying. They can't understand what you're saying. It's frustrating. Did it not work again?
Oh, it's thinking about it. It's thinking about it.
Yeah, it's a slow thinker.
It is. It is.
So just ignore the lady behind the curtain. She's not here.
Alrighty, sir.
Thank you, ma'am.
You're very welcome.
You know, if you were to start being mean to me, I'd probably not come back.
Is that the trick?
That is the trick. A lot of people are mean to me, and when they're mean, I leave. That way, when something doesn't go right in their life, they have to blame somebody else.
Right, right. We'll see in a bit.
Yes, ma'am. Anyway, one of the results of growing up in the system the way that I did is that, you know, I'm in there with a lot of kids who have had some really, really messed up experiences with people who couldn't keep their hands to themselves. So for me, physical intimacy was never a thought of pleasant anything. It was an, oh my God, how can you find that pleasurable with the number of horror stories that I've heard all growing up? And of course, my experiences weren't any better. Anyway, I was homeless. Some friends of mine froze to death, and I started passing out blankets for a living. I went to work every day, and I had to stay up until about 3 o'clock in the morning so that I could go to where I sleep without having to worry about the cops. You got a small window from about 3 o'clock to about almost 5:30. Where they're doing shift change and all that kind of stuff at the police station. So you can sleep for that amount of time during those hours, and that's it. Because during the day, you got shit you got to do while places are open. Now, I was homeless in Boulder. I worked with a guy named White Horse. I was a volunteer, and my job was to walk drunks and alcoholics and heroin addicts mostly to the warming centers, or people who just got off of a bus from Florida. This literally happened, by the way. T-shirt, shorts, flip-flops, looking out the window, decided on a whim, hey, you know what, I'm gonna go to Colorado. I'm going to Boulder. And he looks out the window like this, sees me over. Is that snow? No, dude, the cocaine factory blew up. Of course it's snow. Anyway, Natalie Bollinger was an underage girl who was down there selling drugs for her dad, who beat on her and raped on her. And she cut herself to ribbons one side and down the other because, as you know, as a psychologist, why do girls cut themselves? Number one, somebody is abusing her. Number two, she went to her trusted adult and got blown off. That second part is what leads to self-harm, because self-harm is never a self-harming behavior. That is never its intent to begin with. Now, once we get to the deep leg cutters and the stomach cutters, those aren't for anyone else. That's because those deep slices start popping endorphins into your system to keep you from going into shock, but too many of those endorphins will put you into shock. Mortimer Stilton, doggedroman@gmail.com is my phone number. Or sorry, my email address. You can send me an email with your number and I'll call you. If you're willing to help turn this stuff in the way that a mandated reporter would, to act as a friend or family member to help me to safely turn this evidence in. Mortimer typed, "Hey Sean, I'm going to go make dinner, but I will be sure to tune in as soon as I'm finished and catch up with the rest of this stream. I wish you a wonderful evening." I don't get to have wonderful evenings, Mortimer. I have to worry that the evidence that I have in here is going to be taken. And just so you know, I have a copy of what is supposed to be done, what constitutes abuse, and all that stuff right here. Who's supposed to be contacted. I also have the fact that this exists also shows, well, neglect. See, it's for, although I'm physically and mentally disabled, this is for elder abuse. How can elder abuse be prevented? All this stuff came from the hospital. A hospital that I had to go to try to turn in mandated reporters and abuse. So Mortimer Stelton, there's a few questions you could type down in the regular comments. That's something you could do for certain to help a lot of people. You could make a video on your channel about what a mandated reporter is supposed to do by law. And you can explain how important it is to have a friend or family member present. Another thing you can do, you can look at the videos of the mandated reporters that I've gone to already. And you can break it down into the crimes that were committed and how unprofessionally every single one of them acted. As you well know, there's a big difference between nice and good. A used car salesman to be nice until you get the car off the lot. As is. So all they have to do is take advantage of me and harm me into doing things that are against my best interest. Pretend that it was a decision that I made instead of one of two very shitty options, both of which prevent me from turning in evidence and having my predators hauled off to where they need to be hauled off to. I'm willing to charge up my phone and spend 2 hours on the phone with you. I really am. But only if you're willing to assist me in turning the evidence into a mandated reporter right away. Someone calling himself DJ My Singing Monsters typed, "Hi, remember me?" We getting some more troll accounts? Or somebody wants to help? The wonderful thing about this evidence is that the evidence shows that they're not following the laws, rules, or regulations. That they're not following the mandated reporter crap. They're not following what it is that I'm being forced to follow. Because I'm doing what they're telling me to, but they're not following through on their end. Rather than assist a disabled person, they're exploiting him. Oh my God, you're completely delusional. You're referring to yourself in the third person. How dare I be sarcastic about it, right? Anyway, I made this channel to get help for victims. Not just myself, but people like Tamsin Bowles. People like Rebecca Gross-Nickel-Foley. People like Natalie Bollinger and Alicia Bollinger. People like Maddie Boa. Why would I bring their names up as victims? That's how I met them. What, you really think those kids go down there and hang out with hobos because everything's great at home? Hell no. Maddie Boa was hanging out down there as an underage girl because her dad would beat the fuck out of her for being gay. I grew up with a lot of them kids. Did I cut Maddie Boa more slack than I cut the rest of them kids? Yes, I fucking did. Officer Ramos and Officer Paddock were very key and instrumental in that. When Maddie Boa came to me and told me that, and mind you, these are mandated recorders. When Maddie Boa came to me and told me that her dad beat her up for being gay, and I talked to those officers about it, I explained how I try to run them kids off. They told me, hey, they got as much right to be here as you do. Sorry, try not to hiccup. But I wasn't willing to hang out with Maddie Boa. I knew her name before she turned 18 just because of the situation with her dad beating her up for being gay. Other than that, it was, hey, you need to not hang out down here with these people. It makes us all look bad, and people will hurt us over it. People already hate us, and you hanging out here makes us look like we're pedophiles or we support pedophilia, and that's not cool. It's not cool to make a bunch of adults look like predators because you won't go away. You won't leave them alone. A lot of those girls are looking for love in the wrong places. A lot of people got questions. Whether or not I remember you doesn't matter. It's my words that matter, my evidence that matters. But between my evidence and my words, my evidence is more important. Yes, I admitted to the mean things I did. Not only did I admit to the mean things I did, I showed evidence of mean things I did. I also showed evidence of people's responses. And guess what? What they told me that I should do in response to that abuse is for certainly not what they did. All these people saying, oh, Sean, you're a hypocrite. Don't I know it? I told you it was illegal. You bullshit me. Cops even bullshit me, told me, oh, it's not illegal to do that. They don't even finish listening to what I'm saying before interrupting me to say that. Really? Watch this. Bet you it's illegal if I do it. You know, it's real messed up. After I stuck up for Maddie Boa, Maddie Boa's lies eventually resulted in me having a bunch of lesbian groups working together to try to destroy the things that I say. Mm-hmm. Am I mad at the LGBT community right now? Only the ones who help to destroy evidence and help my predators get away. You help child molesters and rapists to get away. I'm tired of being victimized and told I deserved it. I'm tired of running around in circles to mandated reporters who refuse to do their jobs. Collection of evidence is supposed to be the most important thing to them when it comes to abused adults, especially if they have a communication disability. But instead of, well, following the law, when I tell them I have a communication disability, they kick into high gear with taking advantage of somebody with a disability. They exploit the fact that I have a communication disability. She says she doesn't have to look at evidence. My word is good enough. No, it's not. The word of a mentally ill victim who goes in alone doesn't mean shit. It doesn't mean shit. You are automatically discredited. You have to be kept safe with a friend or family member there and present, as well as recording the situation. Don't make me do it, you know? Tell the truth. Don't make me post it public. My side is never heard.